Hi everyone. We are going to be starting our next lesson today. You just finished the video lesson on the scientific method, just kind of an overview of it. We're going to do a quick review of that, and then we're going to be moving on to how to write a hypothesis and to talk about variables that are in an experiment. So here are our steps in the scientific method. Remember, the first is obviously you make an observation. Based on your observation, you come up with questions. You have to do research after you come up with a question because there's no point making an experiment if there's already answers out there. So based on your research, you may find the answers. Otherwise, you'll just find more information to help you come up with what you think would be the answer to your question. And that's what a hypothesis is. A hypothesis is like an educated guess, a prediction about your question. But it must be testable and it must be measurable, or else it's not a hypothesis. Once you have your hypothesis, you're going to create an experiment. You want to find out if your hypothesis is correct or incorrect. Then we have analyzing our data. It means we want to take all the information that we've learned and see what we've come up with. Now, regardless of whether your hypothesis is correct or incorrect, you're always going to share your results. There's no point doing experiments if you're not going to share the information with other scientists so that they can perform the experiments also, or it could help them further other experiments. Another thing you must remember about the scientific method, it's not just cut and dry 1 through 7. After you do an experiment, you may come up with other questions that you have to research and create another hypothesis. So you're always going back and forth with the scientific method. Now remember, a hypothesis must be testable, it must be measurable. Otherwise, it is not a good hypothesis. For example, I think that stress and health is related. Okay, you can create some kind of test with this to see if this is happening. You might want to make this a little more narrowed down and not so broad, but you could say something like, if there is an increase of stress, then health will be negatively affected. When you write a hypothesis, you will write it as an if-then statement. Always. Okay, now in your hypothesis, there must be mention of the independent variable, which is the one variable in your experiment that you will be changing, and a dependent variable, which is the one variable that you are measuring. It's the outcome of your experiment. So, the increase of stress, that is the one thing that you will be changing. You might have different groups of people that are experiencing different amounts of stress. And then you will be measuring how negatively it affects their health. That's the dependent. We're going to be doing more practice with that. Okay. Again, hypothesis is an educated guess or a prediction, and we are going to use it or state it as an if-then statement. Not all hypotheses need to be written that way, but for us, this is the way we're going to do it. Okay, so if the independent variable will always follow the if. The dependent variable will always follow the then. So let's do some practice. Okay, independent variable. I feed my cat a lot of food. So if you are doing an experiment, this is the one thing that you will be changing, the amount of food you feed your cat. And what you will be measuring and what you want to find out is if she will get fat based on the amount of food that you feed her. So that's your dependent variable. Remember, guys, this is a video, so you can pause it at any time to read if I'm going too fast, or you can rewind it at any time in case there's things that you think you've missed or you need to go over again. All right. Try to, for many of your hypotheses, when you make them, to use the words increase or decrease, because this will make your hypothesis much more specific and much more easier to measure. So for example, with the feeding your cat example, if I increase the amount of food I give my cat, then she will increase her weight. That we can measure, that we can do an experiment around. Okay, now we're going to look at more specifically the two of the types of variables that you need to know when creating a hypothesis and then performing an experiment. The first one being, again, the independent variable. That is the variable that that is changed by the scientist. It's the I control variable. So if you want to think of the I in independent as I control this variable, okay? Every variable in your experiment needs to stay the same except for the independent variable. It's the one you can change. And then we have our dependent variable. That is the variable that you are measuring. That is the variable, that's the outcome of your experiment. What are you trying to find out? So both the dependent and independent variable should be in your hypothesis. So for example, if I drink Mountain Dew before bed, then I will not sleep very much. Okay? You may want to pause this and think to yourself, what is the independent variable? What is the one thing that I will be changing throughout my experiment? Okay, if you thought drinking Mountain Dew was correct, then you got it. And then for the dependent variable, if you thought the amount of sleep was correct, then you are right. So drinking Mountain Dew is what you can change. The amount of sleep is what you are measuring. Okay, more practice. Okay, if I leave all the lights on all day, then my electric bill will be expensive. What is your independent variable? What is the one thing that you can change? Okay, if you said leaving the lights on, that is correct. That's the one thing that you can change. And then what are you measuring? What's the outcome? What are you trying to find out? If you said the cost of your electric bill, then you are correct. Okay, let's try this again. If I brush my cat more, then there will be less fur on my furniture. Think, what is the independent variable? If you said how much you will be brushing your cat, then you're correct. And think, what is your dependent variable? What are you trying to measure? What are you trying to find out? The amount of fur that's going to be on your furniture. Okay, this final example here, you are going to be figuring out on your own, and you will be putting your answer on the notes paper the notes that I gave you to fill in. So I want you to read through this, and I want you to tell me what you think the independent variable is, and then I want you to tell me what you think the dependent variable is. Now, we're going to be doing a lot of practice with this. Also, you can watch this video as many times as you need to, but please have your work completed, and you can come in with any questions that you have, and we'll be working on this at class. So I will see you tomorrow.